Polaris has just announced this thing, and a lot of people are on the fence about it. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and dive right into A, what we're going to be talking about, and B, what y'all are going to be seeing and hearing in the background. Now, the gameplay running in the background right now is of SnowRunner, and if you're curious as to what vehicle or what map I am using, links to all of the mods that I'm using will be in the description down below, along with disclaimers on whether they are available on PC or console or both. Now, a little bit of a background about me. I have a background in, obviously, the gaming space and a little bit in the off-road space as well, including having owned and off-roaded both a long-arm XJ Cherokee and my current off-roader/overlander, which is a Toyota Tundra. As far as the real world goes, I don't really have any experience in the side-by-side game itself, although I felt like it was going to be a really interesting topic to talk about, especially because a lot of my friends have been talking about this new Polaris Xpedition a lot, and I really want to get kind of a gauge of what y'all are thinking about it out there in the comments as well. And one of the biggest things that people seem to be pretty divided on about this thing is its price, because obviously side-by-sides are not going to be the cheapest thing, but this thing in particular, especially when you option it super far out, which you can do with these things, especially considering all of the different collections they have, because the main collections, or I should say the collections that they advertise, are the Overland Collection, the Kayak Collection, the Trail Collection, the Hunt Collection, and the Utility Collection. Now, I will say, to Polaris's credit, you do seem to be able to do a lot of different ththings with one of these. You seem to be able to build an, adventure rig, an overland rig, a trail rig, a, maintenance and utility rig, a small-scale snowplow. You seem to be able to do kind of whatever you want with it. But at the same time, when I did a little bit of digging and I did a little bit of research, I came across an article that was put out by UTV Guide that listed the prices for the different models, or rather trim levels. Now, the lowest one that I could find, which is the Polaris Xpedition XP Premium, they say starts at $28,999, and the Xpedition ADV Premium starts at $29,999, and right off the bat, you're talking about a side-by-side that starts at 30 grand and can be optioned up to 40 grand, not to mention, I'm guessing there's additional accessories you can add on top of that. That's, at least to me, that seems like a lot for a side-by-side. Now, granted, it's a totally new side-by-side, it's a new design, it's a new build, it's a new vehicle, all of that kind of stuff. However, a lot of these different things that you would be able to do with this side-by-side, see, my brain, and granted, if I'm going off the rails here, let me know in the comments below, but let's say I was shopping for an off-road vehicle to do a lot of the different tasks that one of these does, and that was kind of my budget, right? I would probably go get, an XJ Cherokee and, put 1 tons underneath it. I mean, if we're talking about a budget that's that high, depending on how much of the work you can do yourself, you've got a lot of budget to play with there, and you could build one heck of an insane off-road rig. The other concern about one of these is that that's a lot to drop on something that pretty much is kind of, you can't use it on the road in certain parts of the country. This isn't a, well, I say a car, but and people are going to say, well, off-road vehicles aren't cars, blah, blah, blah. But we're using the term car as something that can be operated on the road, right? We're relating the term car to a Jeep Wrangler or a new Bronco or something like that. And these are not that. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, there are states where you can tag and register these things for road use, but that's not everywhere. And also, would you even want to take a side-by-side on the highway? I don't think you would. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Let me know in the comments. And honestly, the more I look at these things, the more I feel, at least personally, the more I feel like the biggest kind of target demographic for these is going to be people that own large pieces of land or like large ranches and things like that. Especially, you know, large ranch style properties that have a lot of gnarly terrain. Maybe they're situated in a really mountainous area, maybe it's really muddy, really rocky, but they don't necessarily need another vehicle that is, you know, tagged and insured for like street use. They need more of like a runabout that also happens to be able to haul people and also happens to have four-wheel drive and also happens to have a multitude of optionable accessories, like, for example, like the winches that you can put on these, and the bumpers, and the lights, and the rooftop tents, and the racks, and all of these different accessories that these things can be optioned out with. I feel like that's probably where the target demographic for one of these is gonna be. But at the same time, you know, you have people, and I see them on the highway all the time, you have people that'll be on their way to Windrock, for example, that'll have like, you know, an F-350 or a Ram 3500 with a gooseneck trailer, and they'll have like 3 side-by-sides on it, right? You know, whether they're Can-Ams or Polaris or whatever other, like, or Hondas or whatever the case may be, you know, these people are loaded down with fleets of side-by-sides to take them to an off-road park like Windrock for the weekend, just like someone would do with, you know, a set of like trail rig Jeeps, for example. And I know that there's obviously going to be a split on whether you would rather go more of the Jeep route or more of the side-by-side route when it comes to like off-road park activities and things like that. I have always kind of gravitated to the Jeep / full-size off-roader route, but at the same time, it's like I can get the appeal of the side-by-sides. I can understand why you would want one, but at the same time, there's always something that draws me back into the Jeeps and the full-size stuff and the Broncos and vehicles like that. And so I kind of find myself in this odd middle ground of, it's not that I dislike side-by-sides, but at the same time, I don't know if they're my personal preference, but I would be open to experiencing them to find out. And of course, one big advantage of something like a side-by-side over like a Jeep or a full-size rig is that they're obviously going to be much smaller. They're going to be a lot closer to the size of like, say, a Suzuki Samurai than they will be to that of a Jeep Wrangler. I mean, even a 2-door Jeep Wrangler is big compared to something like, you know, like even one of these, like a Polaris Xpedition. Like, these are much smaller vehicles, and I think that that goes a long way in terms of their appeal is, you know, when trails get really, really tight, and I don't mean tight for a Jeep, I mean just like, you know, tight in general, like a Jeep can't even fit. You know, these things in some scenarios can still fit, and that allows them to have access to a lot of other areas that Jeeps don't have access to necessarily. And if you're talking about storage, they also take up less space in a barn or in a hangar or even like in a home garage. Like, these things don't take up as big of a footprint on the ground as something like a Jeep or a Bronco or whatever the case may be would. So in that respect as well, that's another win for their smaller size. And frankly, yet another win for these things is you can throw tracks on them. That image is directly from Polaris's website, and I don't even know what to say to that. Like, that looks sick. Even if you're not a side-by-side person, that looks sick. I mean, that thing has 4 doors, it's got a little tiny cargo area in the back, and it's got freaking tracks on it. Like, I don't know what it is about throwing tracks on a vehicle that originally had wheels that speaks to that kid in me that, you know, played with RC trucks and had an obsession with bulldozers. And while, sure, the majority of the people that buy these things are probably not going to equip them with the tracks, the fact that they can be optioned out with tracks is, I mean, Come on, it's pretty sick, the fact that they can be optioned out with tracks. Yes, I know that a lot of the buyers are not going to use them with the tracks, and it's probably going to be, you know, not the most optioned thing or whatever. I don't care. I still think the fact that you can get them with tracks is freaking sick. Now, I know that this video was a little bit of a different topic than what we normally do, a little bit of a different topic than what we normally cover, but I saw a lot of my friends talking about it, and frankly, I was really intrigued by it because it's a really interesting entry into the side-by-side segment, and I figured since y'all are also into not only off-road games, but real-world off-roading, I felt like it might be something that would be an interesting conversation to open up with y'all. Now, if y'all enjoyed this video, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see y'all next time.